Varushka is a prosperous land. The forests and hills may be haunted by horrors, but there are great riches to be found here if one is brave enough. During the winter solstice, there were several significant synod judgments, and at least one Senate commission, that all seemed aimed at recognising or improving the prosperity of Varushka. While Bartimius tells the people of all nations to consider how the bounty of their nations might be used for the benefit of their people, the Varushka National Assembly speaks directly to the people of the forests and hills. Nisha Straskovich brings word of wealth claimed. Yvanchka Nikolaeva of prosperity wielded, and Belikov, the wolf of Karsk, ensures that no threat will sneak into the vales under the shadow of compassion. Varushkans have long memories. 400 years ago, their shadowed nation was known for its great wealth as well as for its nightmares. That changed almost overnight when they joined the Empire. The prosperous territory of Temeshwar chose to join the League, taking with it the Fortress of Salt. The Night Quarry and the Hunt of Alderai the Fair were allocated as imperial rather than national bourse seats, an act that some Varushkans still consider tantamount to theft. This theft nearly broke the Empire as it was being formed, in fact. History does not record what concessions were given to the people of Varushka to keep them in the Empire with only 2 of their 5 bourse resources. But even without them, they quickly secured a reputation for great mineral wealth and the finest timber in the Empire. Yet, that undercurrent of resentment still remained, stifled by the imperial constitution and its requirement that once a bourse seat has been allocated, it can't be allocated again. Then, a little over a year ago, the Imperial Senate gave itself the power of relinquishment, and everything changed. A number of prosperous Varushkan citizens have been inspired by news of the achievement of Tomislav Straskovich and Bors, and by mandate of Bartimius. Rich boyars and wealthy merchants alike are prepared to put their hands into their pouches and secure the future of their nation by buying back its past. Oksana Lyava Pinavora, the spokesperson for this loose affiliation, has a straightforward proposal. They offer to buy the Hunt of Alderai the Fair back from the Empire. The group offers 1,000 thrones to the Imperial Senate to use the power of relinquishment to allocate the Hunt of Alderai the Fair as a Varushkan national resource. There are a few additional provisions, of course. What the Senate can relinquish once, it can relinquish again just as easily. Oksana and her allies understand that it is unconstitutional for a current Senate to tie the hands of a future Senate. Instead, they make a promise. If the Senate takes payment for the hunt and then uses its power to return it to imperial control, or seeks to balance the books by taking the eternal shafts of time, granites of Veltsgorsk, or the gift of the dwindling star out of Varushkan hands, this will be a clear betrayal of the entire nation. They offer no specifics, but they suggest that their coalition and the people of Varushka who would react poorly to such treachery will extract payment from the Empire in such circumstances with considerable interest. This is not a threat, they hasten to add, but a promise. Oksana and her collaborators have set their sights on the Hunt of Alderai the Fair, but it's not their first choice. There are many Varushkans, especially in Mikarova, who are keen to see the Night Quarry return to Varushkan hands. Wise folk who can see which way the river runs, however. The Imperatrix has made it clear that her plan to fortify the southern coast will require all of the Empire's white granite. While the boyars and merchants don't particularly care about the safety of those of distant lands, they can't ignore the economic and political realities. The time for the Night Quarry will come, but for now, their attention is focused on the Weirwood Grove. However, if the Imperial Senate were persuaded to relinquish the Night Quarry instead of the Hunt of Alderai the Fair, they would leap at the chance to see the white granite once again under Varushkan control. This might be feasible if their country folk who attend Anvil could raise the additional money, but these extra funds would have to come from somewhere other than the money of the pouches of the boyars and merchants who put up the initial 1,000. Even better would be an arrangement that allowed both the hunt and the quarry to be returned to Varushkan control. But like most of their fellows, Oksana's alliance are cynically practical enough to know that the likelihood of this happening is very low indeed. Still, as Oksana says, now that relinquishment exists, it's simply a matter of finding the right price. The hunt of Alderey the Fair is next due to be auctioned during the winter solstice. The offer of 1,000 thrones to the imperial treasury remains open until the hunt is no longer held by a Varushkan. At that point, they will withdraw their offer, although the Varushkan Assembly or a direct appeal to the group via their spokesperson might be able to persuade them otherwise. On the road southwest of Delev, not far from the eternal shafts of time, stands an old stone structure called the Iron Round Tower. Once it was at the heart of a prosperous vale, but the secession of Temeshwar changed all that. Before Varushka joined the empire, it was a major trading post on the way to Temeshwar and the western nations. It also saw passage of significant amounts of mithril and salt from the fortress in Metri bound for the eastern vales. Now it stands as a lonely reminder of what might have been. A proposal has been raised that would see the Iron Round Tower restored. Inspired by the Cinderpath Exchange, it suggested that the Iron Round Tower once again become a place of trade, specifically where Varushkan merchants would deal in Varushkan mithril for the benefit of Varushkan buyers. Commissioning the Iron Round Tower would require a Senate motion, or an imperial wayleave, and would cost 10 wains of mithril and 20 crowns. It would take 3 months to complete. At the end of that time, the tower would be rebuilt and a secure vault beneath it to protect the mithril and money alike from opportunistic thieves. Trustworthy guards armed with fine weapons and armour would protect the tower and ensure the safety of merchants travelling to and from the market. Given its location, a small vale would quickly grow up around it, supporting the merchants and Schlachter alike. A vale that would need a boyar. Virtuous mine owners would bring their mithril bourse notes here and exchange them for an agreed amount of money. Those using the exchange would be secure in the knowledge that not only were they enriching themselves and receiving a just reward for their prosperity, but they were helping their nation. The Iron Round Tower would function as a ministry, allowing the purchase of mithril. It would need an imperial title to oversee it, the Iron Boyar, perhaps, appointed annually by the mine and the forest owners of Varushka through the imperial bourse. In addition to having custodianship of the ministry, the responsibilities of the title holder would also include securing more mithril, white granite, weirwood and ilium for Varushka, explicitly for the betterment of the nation. As with the Cinderpath Exchange, the Iron Round Tower would have an impact on the amount of mithril available to purchase from the public bourse auction at Anvil each season. Citizens of Varushka who might otherwise have sought to make the most money possible would instead accept a fair price for their metal and the knowledge that they were aiding the people of their nation. Indeed, some mine owners from a neighbouring Temeshwar might consider the short trip along the blood-red roads to Delev and a guaranteed return preferable to the long trip to Anvil and the uncertain hand of the markets. As a consequence, 8 fewer wains of mithril each season would be available through the public auction at Anvil. Interest in the Iron Round Tower project will, of course, wane over time. If the commission is not approved before the end of the autumn equinox 383, it will cease to be available, as its supporters turn their attention to other things. In a very real sense, the wealth of Varushka lies in the ground itself, whether it's the ore and stone extracted from the mines and quarries, or the wood and mysterious metals harvested from the forests. The Varushkan National Assembly could urge the people of their nation to increase their prosperity, and the prosperity of Varushka, by embracing mines and forests. If this mandate were upheld and enacted, the benefits would be threefold. Firstly, in the following season, any Varushkan citizen would be able to exchange their existing personal resource for a mine or a forest, as they see fit, in any territory of Varushka, including Ossium. They would not need to provide the normal 2-crown fee for changing a resource. In addition, if they possessed upgraded resource, they would be able to acquire forests or mines upgraded to the same degree. This opportunity would persist for the summer solstice event and the downtime following. Secondly, for the coming season, the output of every mine and forest in Varushka would improve by the equivalent of 1 rank. if the Liao for the mandate is accompanied by a suitably Varushkan story that reminds everyone of the power of prosperity and the benefits of working mines and forests, then the bonus provided to those mines and forests would last for an entire year rather than a single season. The named priest would be responsible for choosing or composing that story, which would be spread along with the mandate. Finally, and perhaps of less interest to the Varushkan people, this mandate would lead to a permanent increase in the amount of mine and forest materials being sent to the public auction by citizens of Varushka. With more people choosing to exploit the natural resources of Varushka, more people would be prepared to send their surplus to Anvil to see what price they could get for it. Following the autumn equinox, a number of humans who have previously been slaves of the Druj in the northern forests of Ossian were freed by the Thule and brought to Iversgard. Following the winter solstice, the Varushkan assembly charged Belikov, the Wolf of Karsk, with evaluating each of these refugees to ensure they posed no hidden threat to the Vales of Varushka. Some 140 of these refugees proved exactly what they appeared, people freed from slavery at the hands of vicious Eastern Orcs. Some of them were Varushkan already, and the majority of those who remained leapt at the chance to find new lives in the forests and hills of Karsk. Indeed, a significant number chose to settle in Iversgard itself. Of the remaining 10, a half dozen or so are currently unaccounted for. The Varushkan egregore is working with Belikov to locate them so that the final insights can be carried out. The egregore believes they have found the missing slaves and has identified potential conjunctions of the Sentinel Gate that may be used to visit their locations and perform the last handful of evaluations. It seems these evaluations may well be necessary as well. 3 of the refugees evaluated by Belikov and their allies were discovered to be monsters. One woman was identified as a shape-changer, similar to a Mora, but with the aspect not of a bird, but of a serpent, whose paralysing stare is believed to have already been responsible for the deaths of 2 of her fellow slaves. Another of the refugees, a child of 10, was discovered to be a twisted creature similar to a dubek, which is a creature of animate wood and sap, but desiccated and filled with poisonous spiders. A third appeared normal initially, but resisted efforts to evaluate him. A thorough insight discovered a terrible, hungry darkness staining his aura. Investigation led to the horrible discovery that the man had fallen into cannibalism in the Drush camp, and in some fashion attracted the attention of the Wendigo. The man attempted to flee, and was plainly prepared to commit murder to do so. He died of his wounds before a magistrate could pass sentence. While it's been many years since Karsk was liberated, mostly, from the Thule, the territory is still sparsely populated. As with all the Varushkan territories, Karsk is wealthy, but even now there are mines and forests that still lie empty or are worked by skeleton crews, and vales whose population has never really recovered from the invasion. Now, thanks to Belikov the Wolf and the Varushkan Assembly, there's been an influx of new people eager to make new lives for themselves. This presents an opportunity. With an appropriate Senate motion or the use of an imperial way-leave, work could begin to reopen those mines and forests that have been abandoned, or provide tools and resources to the existing resources that are not being fully exploited. The influx of new citizens, certified as definitely not being monsters, would be able to either take custody of the new mines and forests or find work with existing owners. The project would cost 6 wains of mithril and 6 wains of white granite, 12 crowns in labour costs, and take 3 months to complete. It would also create offices for an imperial title, perhaps at Iversgard, Kosti, Morisvar or Veresk, who would be responsible for resolving any conflict between the new settlers and old inhabitants. Going forward, the title would also be responsible for mediating any disputes between mine and forest owners in the territory. In return, they would be well placed to purchase resources from the mines and forests at a bargain price, as from a ministry that has 2 purchase tracks. A title, perhaps Merchant of Karsk or Warden of the Hills and Trees, would be appointed annually by mine and forest owners of Varushka with the aid of the Imperial Bourse. This opportunity is only available until the end of the autumn equinox 383. After that, refugees will have settled into new lives. The necessities of preparing for winter alone will mean that they have to have made provisions for themselves. Belikov, the Wolf of Karsk, and the Varushkan egregore will have details of the conjunctions that seem to lead to the locations of the last half-dozen refugees, and will be able to determine what to do about them once that summit begins. These will be tent encounters for a small number of players. Any one of them may involve combat, and the environment may involve smoke or poor lighting. During the autumn equinox, the civil service presented a proposal for the Iron Roads, which is a network of Varushkan highways to link together the mines and forests and vales of the entire nation. The mandate of Bartimius, coupled with the assignment of Ossium as a Varushkan territory, had sparked renewed interest in this opportunity to connect mines, quarries and forests across the nation. Between the maintenance of existing roads and the building of new ones across Varushka, the project will require 200 wains of white granite, 400 crowns in labour costs, and would take an entire year to complete. Most of the planning work's already been done, so despite the size of the project, it would count as only a single commission towards the Senate limited number each season. The roads would greatly improve the prosperity of Varushkan mine and forest owners, who will find it much easier to access labourers, tools and raw materials. The mine owners in each of these 3 territories would each get a share of 35 random ingots of metal, and the forests in each of these 3 territories would each get a share of 35 random measures of material. That is 35 ingots and 35 measures in each of the 3 territories. These roads would also improve access to the Eternal Shafts of Time, the Hunt of Alderai the Fair, the Granites of Veltsgorsk, and the Night Quarry. The production of each of these Bourse resources would be improved by 2 wains each season as long as those roads remained open. Furthermore, Varushka is a rich nation in terms of raw materials, perhaps the richest in the Empire. A significant project here to expand its roads, providing easier contact to the isolated vales and their resources, could well lead to further opportunities to invest in the industrial might of the northeast. An influx of wood and metal to the northern trade network, more materials flowing to Temeshwar, meaning an opportunity to expand the Assayers Guild, easier access to the mines of Karsk, and potentially other opportunities might present themselves if the grand road building project were completed. The next step, once the roads are underway, would be to consider how Ossium might be included. The first step towards achieving this would be securing a good quality map of the territory and its secrets. Most likely this will require the construction and operation of a spy network in the territory, but if this was done and the Iron Roads commissioned, it's likely an opportunity would arise to expand the roads, even before the construction on the main project is completed.